Okay, welcome back to you, baby dolls. We have a special interview today. I am joined by my friend Tom, and it's actually a privilege to be here. Now, everyone at home, don't let the glasses fool you. Tommy goes absolutely bonkers after 10 o'clock when the kids are asleep. I also want to say, Tommy, it's an honor that you thought of me as you continue your journey to explore Degen culture. Take it away, sir.
Sommi, mate, that was a wonderful intro. I appreciate it. That's the first time I've been introduced actually in my investigation into Degen culture in such a beautiful manner. So I just want to, at the top of the show, say thank you kindly for that. Now, you know why we're in the room together, and that's because of the Degen Generation docuseries movie film that I'm making that will come out eventually. I'm not sure when, but it probably won't be available on Netflix or Apple TV, but that's okay because we are practicing what is referred to as real DeFi. So we will do our own distribution. But yeah, let me dive straight on in. I've got about 10 questions. We'll see how far we go and how deep you want to go and how much of the culture you can actually define or, bring some clarity for me. So if you're ready to rock and roll, I'd like to dive straight on into my questions.
Let's go, sir. Let's go. Let's crack it.
Right on. So do us a favor and in a sentence, define the crypto Degen philosophy and how it fits into the regular world.
I reckon it is a mashup of libertarian values with the wild, wild west. And that's what it basically is. You see, it literally is. It's a bunch of nerds who were probably picked on at school. They didn't get the babes, but they were really smart. And when we grew up, I'm not part of these smart folk, as you can tell, but as they grew up, they realized that the financial system doesn't really cater to them at all. They're watching purchasing power wither away, and they know a bit about the internet and technology, and they thought, you know what? Let's dream big. Let's change how things work. Now, anybody who's of the older generation, they would probably think that's hocus pocus. But as you know, these big dreams have eventuated into something amazing. So effectively what they've been able to do is, from the grassroots, everyone's been able to really figure out what is actually going on when it comes to transactions, banks, payments, what's money, why do people continue to hold things whereas they sell others, okay? Why do they have collectibles? All these things we've been figuring out, and along that path, you have a lot of discoveries. For example, in this Degen culture, right, we've been finding out that a lot of these network effects, they're not so clear. So they confuse a lot of people who are from traditional finance because they come from a world of price to earnings and businesses who generate cash flow. And we have like a bit of a rebellion going on here where people come in and they say, you know what? I don't care that this digital collectible, I don't care that it has no cash flow. I don't want it to. I'm just going to hold it anyway. Because you know what? I don't really have much wealth to my name anyway. And what we've found over time is this has been snowballing. And we've been discovering things for different use cases in crypto. And we are still in that discovery process right now. Okay, so the Degen culture has emerged out of that. It all started with Bitcoin, and the ball has been rolling ever since then. So that's where we are today. And the story's not ended yet. So it's actually quite exciting.
Right, okay. And within this culture, there, anonymity is afforded to a lot of hodlers, as you call them. How do you navigate the, various motivations at play amongst an anonymous hodlers of a various, projects token?
That's a really good question because, for example, I'm actually the best case for this. I started off my channel being fully anonymous in terms of I didn't show my face. And crypto, right? Because crypto you can be anonymous, or as much as you really can. We all thought at the start being anonymous is the best thing ever. But with all the complexities with launching tokens, swapping assets, moving money around, what's happened is all the kids in their underwear eating Hot Pockets, they were just moving like millions of dollars around, okay? But now the industry's so big, we have billions and billions and billions of dollars moving on. So what we've found is that the crypto technology, because it allows you to be anonymous, it doesn't mean everyone really wants to. We want what they call like basically pseudo-anonymity, which is like, I want to be able to transact with you, but I don't want you to peek inside my house. So what's actually funny, you have someone like Vitalik, always the pioneers of the industry. They're figuring out systems where they can kind of make this work, because every step of the way, the government comes in and puts their foot down and says, you know what? We don't trust you guys. Could be terrorists, you could be launderers, you could be anything. And then all these genius kids, okay, these really high IQ kids, they figure out a working solution. They go, hey, you know what? Okay, I know you don't want anybody to be fully anonymous, but we can kind of make these upgrades where we can give someone a key. And if you, as the government, need to like check up on somebody, they can just give you the key and you can basically authorize you to be able to view their whole ledger, but no one else can. Okay, so, you know, I was thinking about this same question years ago when I was just coming into crypto, and I'm like, man, how do they solve this? I have no idea, but it's kind of funny that these guys just figure it out in 2 seconds, and now that's the next leg that's going on, you know. But everyone's got to be careful what they wish for, because, you know, a world that's fully anonymous is not exactly the world I think everybody really wants. And you actually find out over time, even as us humans, we value humans, the human face, the human experience. So we're seeing like this morphing and like this, it's like basically jello, just kind of like meshing around. We're seeing like people kind of discover, how does crypto fit in with this whole world? But the beautiful part is crypto is just a technology. So whether people think, okay, you're going to be fully anonymous or not, I think it's actually beautiful. You have the option to. And we're still kind of figuring all of it out. You know, that's the whole game. The whole game is basically, can we make internet products that are so good you don't even need humans in the middle at all? Okay, so that's where it's all going. But obviously there's like these teething issues, these growing pains in the middle, where you need people to be centralized, you need focused leaders and people to take charge. Okay, and then you have that issue of everyone saying, well, you know, this whole thing started off as a payments network, but if we use the payments network, everybody can peek into everybody's wallet. We know that's not going to work, but I promise you, when I first came in, this was like an issue coming in, but it's actually kind of fascinating to see that these things slowly get weeded out. It's kind of a sign for everybody at home to know that you're still early, okay? If you wait until all these solutions are done, it's pretty much game over by that point. So this kind of uncertainty, that's actually really good for everybody still in the industry who's trying to experience value growth for their portfolio and just seeing what's ahead on the frontier.
Right on. Narrative battles in the social media marketing. You know, I've been observing many projects, not only in PulseChain, but across the board, really. Talk to me a little bit on the narrative battles in the marketing and the use case there, and how that unfolds.
Narratives are actually such a fantastic thing to think about, because everything in speculation and markets, everything is about narratives. You see, at the end of the day, when you're looking at a story, you're thinking about, okay, how do humans relate to the message going on? And we see in crypto all the time. We see everything moving in cycles, and we can plot it out basically on a Wall Street cheat sheet, which is very famous. You basically get to see everybody go through like euphoria down to depression and everything in between. So what you've actually been able to see is prices of these assets follow these narratives. And you don't actually, it's funny, you don't even need to really read the news. You can just look at a chart. If you see a big fat green candle, you know that the news is going to be good. If you see it red, you know the news is going to be bad. And everybody, I guess, in the game, everybody's like in the washing machine. So everyone is trying to figure out, how do they make it to the very, very end? It's almost like this. Everyone's like on this little pilgrimage, you know, like someone climbing up the mountain, and it's snowy and it's raining. That's how everybody sees themselves, just because the volatility is so intense. And also because we really are, like I said, that example, it's like libertarianism meets the wild, wild west. There are no real rules. So these stories that come out, they can be very compelling. And what's also fascinating is there's people on the good teams and the bad teams. And what's also, right, shocking as well is I've seen teams try to create amazing narratives during a bear market. And because everybody's just infected with just a negative vibe and sadness and prices going down, no matter what story they invent, it has not been able to break the barrier. Prices don't go up. People can't feel any good. They can't get good adoption. Okay. And also, to the contrary, when there's a frenzy and everybody feels good, I mean, it's really contagious in the crowd. You'll notice that even bad news, even letdowns, even things that don't go perfectly to plan, for some reason, during the greed and the euphoria, those narratives, they get swallowed up by people. It's just because everybody comes in with dollar signs. They see it more like a casino. They see value coming in. And what I mean by value is there's just more and more people joining crypto and looking for some experience. Everybody's coming in to make money, but where does that really fit when we're making all these use cases over time? Okay, so yeah, it is really fascinating to see these stories come and play out. I've seen basically, the good stuff, the bad stuff, everything in between. It is fascinating. All of it gets summarized in a price chart. You don't even need to know the news. You look at the price chart and you can basically summarize, exactly how everyone's faces is going to be looking if you spoke to them.
Right. So yeah, this is this FOMO in, FUD out philosophy, really. And so what you're saying is that the news or the narrative doesn't necessarily move the charts, but the charts are an indicator of what is going to come in the narrative next, or?
Yeah, that's actually it. You see, there's so many variables at play that if you took this very simple approach of you say, okay, I've got a long-term view. I don't know if it's going to rain tomorrow. I don't know if people are going to get scared tomorrow. I don't know. I don't care. All I know is the technology is cool. It's innovative. It's being improved. And in 5 years, it's going to be better than what it is today. In 5 years, there's going to be more people than there are today. And that's all you need to know. Unfortunately, it's easier said than done because everybody comes in and the volatility is so intense. There's 80% wipeouts. I mean, in the stock market, people lose their minds over like 15%. I mean, we have crypto that literally will drop 95% down. And what I've been able to do, I show it on my channel a lot, is the reason why it does that is crypto doesn't follow the same principles as stocks where you value them based off cash flows coming in. They're valued like a network, which means the more people that come in, you get a square component, all right? So it's basically the square of the number of users coming in. So if there's 2 people in the network, your value is 4. If you go to 5 people in the network, it becomes 25. If you go to 10 people, now it's 100. So you can see it's gone parabolic. The problem though is if you go from 10 people back down to 5 people, you've gone from $100, for example, down to $25, okay? But you've only lost half the people. So this type of mentality, it hasn't really sunken into everyone yet. That's how we know we're really early because the volatility is really insane. And people are still figuring this type of stuff out. What's also fascinating too is how all of the variables mix in with what's going on with the stock market, the Bitcoin halvening, and all these other narratives trying to fight themselves. But there's one thing everyone agrees on. Even if you're skeptical of this magical 4-year cycle, for some reason, like clockwork, Bitcoin goes up, it tops out a year after it bottoms out, a year after its top. It spends a year recovering, and then it starts mooning into its Bitcoin halvening year, which is where we are today. It was funny, just like last month, right? In December, I was telling a lot of people, I go, look, I know this is going to be a ballsy call, but throw everything out the door when we enter 2024. You're just going to see people come in with a frenzy. They're going to come in. They have a hunger and greed. I've never seen anything like it. It feels like I'm reading one of the journals from, say, the Roaring 20s, the 1920s, or when they're talking about people coming in with a frenzy. Because when I was young and learning in university, I never knew, like, how do people believe these narratives and these stories? How do people get greedy? But now I get to see it. You get to see people come in. because their friends are coming in, their portfolios are growing, and they're seeing their purchasing power in the real world disconnect. So people have more and more desperation, which means when these stories come in, they feel more compelled to believe in them, especially on the upside. Also, sadly enough, when the red candles, the FUD narratives come, the bad stuff comes, no matter how rational you can tell people to like chill out, most of them still won't. A lot of people, and unfortunately we call them like paper hands, they just liquidate everything. It's just because we still haven't really evolved our minds to understand networks in crypto, you know? But for example, no one's going to be selling the Apple stock for 20 cents. It's because everyone kind of knows, hey, Apple's got a company. It's making money. It's selling iPhones, okay? But with crypto, hey, why can't it go to zero? You know, people still haven't really understood these power of network effects and how the people in the community, they're bigger than any one story. But this actually, it gives us a lot of opportunity. The fact that people don't know this, it means, once again, we're still early and we're still punching along this journey, which is exactly where we want to be.
Right on. And are there only transactional relationships in crypto? As in, you know, I'll do something for you, you do something for me, as in a, you know, a regular transaction, or are there, you know, genuine friendships being made here as well? Because if you know, the blockchain is transactional. If you form new relationships on a transactional network, it suggests that every relationship will emanate in that sort of direction. Is that fair?
You know, that's a really good question. I can tell you right now, crypto communities, if you go to the rankings, you look at the biggest ones, the strongest ones are cults. And I mean, I was one of the first pioneers. I just kept calling them cults, and they were seen with a negative connotation at the start. But if you go back to my earlier question, I was talking about networks and communities. Well, think about this. You want to be in the community that's most like a cult, because it means no matter how low the price value goes, these people see an inherent fundamental value of being there and they don't want to leave. And this is what gives its value. And if you look at the highest, biggest cryptos, right, Bitcoin, Ethereum, there are a lot of cult elements there. And where does it come from? It comes from people who took a shot at the beginning and basically their lives got so enriched and they formed a lot of friendships. They brought their family members in. They have a lot of big community members. There's people who are like I call them the religious priests. Okay, it's like people defending the temple. All of these elements start appearing. Like everyone is really out there, almost like in a jungle, and they have their own community village. Okay, and yes, these relationships, I will put them. They're stronger than what you might see when people live in the same country together. I promise you that. I've seen people. Okay, the commitment that they've had. I mean, you have people getting tattoos. Okay, it's like a sports team. It's like dedication to a country. And we don't really know why, but it's got something to do with the blockchain technology. Because we can hold value and you can own something, people really love wearing their colors, their team colors out there. And yeah, these friendships go beyond everything, but they're not transactional. It's people in a community. So that's where we don't know where the next 10 years is going to go, because what's going to happen is using the blockchain will become more like a commodity in terms of there'll be more chains. It gets cheaper. We're able to do things more with a better user experience. So we wonder, we don't know the answer to this. We wonder if there's all these communities out here, what if the value of what they hold slowly withers away because it gets diluted everywhere? That's what we don't know. So this doesn't happen in the real world. Why? Well, there's limited geography. So you can't go make another America. You can't go make another Australia or another Great Britain. You can't. It's fixated just by geographical limitations, right? But in crypto land, you can just keep minting coins, minting logos. People are creating new ideas all the time. It really is just a renaissance and a birth here and there. But we do see a lot of things. They do stick. Okay, so there are ones with sticking and staying power. The communities in there are really, really strong. I mean, there are people, for example, in Hex and PulseChain community, this should be written about in university textbooks, because how do you explain a coin dropping 98 to 99% down and social engagement still through the roof and people still here? You can't explain that, okay? But when you look at, okay, people, it's a cult, it's a community, people have a long-term vision, they're all on board. It starts to make sense from that lens. So these are the things we're still uncovering, and I'm still glad, once again, it's very exciting because we're still early and no one really has kind of figured it out yet. There's no formula.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring up the cult thing because, yeah, I've witnessed various communities, and they often have these what appears to be leadership in a supposedly decentralized ecosystem. So there are some strong sort of roles within the cult that kind of perhaps are the answer to why people don't leave during those bear markets, because they are maybe looked after in some way by those leaders, very much like how a cult would operate in the real world.
Yeah, it is fascinating. So one of the things I always explore, and people's minds they always explode when I tell them this. Every cult we see in crypto forming right now, it started from the big daddy, Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the cult. I've made many posts and videos showing you Wired. They still have their article up from 2013. It's called The Cult of Satoshi. It was literally as it was crashing down. And they basically called everybody just a bunch of weirdos. There's a lot of these weirdos, terrorists, money laundering. They actually called the cult of Satoshi, and they literally said, they go, what a bunch of internet losers trying to make a people's currency. They failed 800 plus times. They never work. And they don't even know who this guy is. So weird. It's also funny. There was somebody else, some anonymous dude. He basically made a critique of Bitcoin back then. And it was actually true. He basically said that this Satoshi dude, he owns all the coins. How do you know he hasn't dumped and gone away with that? Now, that's why most people's minds blow away, because it's been like 15 years. People see Bitcoin as the pioneer of decentralization. But what they don't know is in the first 2 to 3 years, Satoshi owned all the coins. He had mined 1 million coins. He owned 100%. And then every year it went down. So it's actually fascinating. That's why one of the common arguments people come into the PulseChain and HEX communities, they'll say is, well, maybe Richard Hart owns all the coins. But what no one ever really elaborates on is every single crypto, doesn't matter what it is, they all have the same vision. And the same vision is centralized, focused leader, cult leader, whoever it is, they have a lot of ownership at the start. And their goal is to slowly dilute themselves over time. So basically allow the people to fill up the gaps. That's actually happened with Satoshi. Satoshi just he had his 1 million Bitcoin, then he stopped mining, and then everybody else was allowed to mine and basically take over. So this very, very long-term approach, it's basically, in a nutshell, they're digital countries. It's like you raided an empty island out in the middle of the Pacific, you founded it, and you're like, oh, golly gee, okay, maybe you're the founder, you're the leader, you're the George Washington who comes and takes over that land. You got to think, okay, how do I give everyone power? Well, I can't just hand over to one person. You say, okay, well, what if I just dilute my power slowly over time? That's actually Bitcoin's halvening. It's funny. We just see the Bitcoin halvening. Everyone's like, wow, we're going to go to the moon. But they don't actually know, what does it mean? It means that the dilution, the inflation is just slowing down over time. It's allowing everybody to get in over time and actually protect the value, which is, it's funny because no one really speaks about that anymore. It's very, very changed, but the concept is still there. It's just very few amount of crypto founders and leaders are truly able to understand it. But it's one thing to know that, but there's a lot of skills that got to go through. For example, like managing a community and a cult, having a central focused leadership. And also you see how fast crypto moves because it's super competitive. You don't have geographical disadvantages or advantages in crypto land. Everything's digital, everything. So I always have this saying, I tell people, the community is the asset, not the code. So it's actually very scary. So no matter what you put on the internet, your beautiful code, it can just be taken by someone more popular. And if we know everything is in crypto is valued as a network, it's just a network of people. That basically means whoever's got the biggest cult, they can just grab the best technology and just take it for themselves. And actually, we're witnessing that today. We are witnessing that today. So whenever in Ethereum, someone makes cool, new, innovative technology, you'll just see that get what we call forked. So people just copy paste it, try to tweak it to do better settings and just do it for their own communities. So it's actually fascinating how that's working to play out. And we don't know how this all ends, right? But what we're seeing right now is a net benefit to everyone. There's so much growth to come in, even though there's all these communities and these cults. But hey, where it's going to be in 10 years, we don't know. But so far, I guess, the ship is sailing smoothly.
Yeah, it is fascinating. It's this, I think it's called anarcho-capitalism. Is that kind of the essential model that these communities operate in, I think. But so you might be aware that as part of my investigative approach, I tend to try the product and chart my experience. And about 6 months ago, I you know was approached by the Gang, and they helped me create something called the GDAY token, which has been alive now for 6 months or so about as long as those guys' token, the HOA. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm trying to figure out what the bloody hell I'm going to do here. And now you've just reminded me of how Satoshi has, or how a benevolent cult leader might dilute themselves over time. Is that something that I should look into for the GDAY token, do you think? Because obviously I'm looking for an interesting result as part of my documentary. So an interesting being obviously number go up for GDAY. And uh, yeah, what do you think around what I've got going there?
You know, I've got a confession to make. As soon as I saw it, I was like, you know what? I'm in. I threw a bullet in it. So if anyone is out there watching, I mean, hey, come and have fun, right? Lottery ticket size
Oh
only,
yeah.
friends. So it's funny. So this is the funny thing, Tommy. When it comes to whenever a coin has value, everyone's mind blows because everyone in stock market world, they're like, how does this thing have any value? It's just, but it's people from the financial system. We've been left out. So like what's actually happening is there's a certain number of US dollars on the bid of GDAY that's never going to leave. Everyone just says, you know what? That's it. See what happens, okay? But what we found is in crypto, when people try to take it the next level and be like a serious thing, that's where there's teething issues. Not everything can actually transcend that. And what we saw in the last bull market was you don't actually need to think about how do I dilute this and what's the use case. You don't actually need to think about that at all because Dogecoin went to an 80 billion valuation. You know what's interesting? I watch so many macro people who I respect. I was watching them all of 2022. They actually said, I can quote like at least 4 of them said, the crypto market is not allowed to bottom out until Dogecoin is worth 0. Guess what? Still worth what? Like 6 to 10 billion valuation. It's not going to 0. So this meme culture and this fun, I don't know why. It's people in a network. They might join your Telegram. They might just like the word "g'day." They might just speculate. Hey, maybe my friend Sommi will talk about it more. They like that. That's actually what people like it. So what I've actually been able to do is I've noticed there's a category of 2 types of what we call, digital crypto assets or Degen coins, right? So obviously you have white collar office projects. They are replacing, JP Morgan and DeFi, their money markets, their DEXs, so that, being able to swap or do privacy, all this other stuff. And then we have the blue collar coins. This is the equivalent of people who, maybe they just want to throw $50 at a slot machine on the Friday night, have a meat pie or whatever, and they don't care. It's like gambling on the dogs for them. But what we've found is some of these communities in these coins, they stick. They just stick. There's a constant flow of people who want to participate. Some of it's gambling. Some of it's people looking for somewhere to belong, or they just want to be in crypto. It is what it is. So it's beautiful. I think you let it run its course because what we've found is, okay, like I said, people who try to take the things more serious route, it loses its fun, its flair, its speculation. When you leave it open to the community, people's imaginations run wild. And you don't need to do anything. I know, because you're probably thinking, because we still have this old mentality of like, okay, how do I make it useful? So for example, right, I know a lot of people, they'll make meme coins of me, okay? And I don't want them to, but I know I can't stop them. So then I even thought to myself, I go, you know what? What if I just picked out random people from these people who have bought those coins, and I'll give them like maybe an ICO access or like early access to a project, okay? And I thought about that and I thought, I go, but you know what? That probably introduces more problems here and there. So this is actually a very common issue that you find in crypto. People They just want to form communities, and they want to form communities from zero, starting zero, and then just see what happens. Okay. And this thing just keeps running its course. So that's what I say to you. I reckon let the community decide where it wants to go. I don't think you need to do anything when it comes to that. What's also fascinating, right? You just sitting there and doing nothing, people might like that the most, you know? I think if your community grows in size, you'll see people come in. You'll see people come in. They'll want to be Telegram admin moderators. They'll want to be like, hey, I can make like, you know, a logo, a website, or redo something for you. It's actually fascinating how these things are growing. It really does remind me, if we could go back to America being formed, I'm not joking, like America being formed, people coming in, there's like high growth everywhere. Everyone wants to do something, you know. How long this lasts, I don't know, but it really is fascinating to see.
And that's interesting you mentioned that, because a few people do come by now and again, you know, asking if they can do something, and I feel sort of obligated to give them some GDAY tokens or something. Is that not the right approach? Is it, you know, because it goes back to this transactional, oh, he's going to do some thumbnails for me. I don't know why. I don't know who he is. Should I give him some GDAY, or should I just say thank you kindly? How do you approach it?
Yeah. What crypto's been able to do, so if I could just visualize it for you. Imagine there's a new city being built on another part of America. You just formed America. And you walk into the city and you see somebody who's making a pizza shop. And you go by the pizza shop and you say to him, go, you know what, man? I can make you a really big logo. No one even knows you got a pizza shop here. So you want to make this big neon light logo. But the beautiful part with crypto now is you can help that pizza shop, but you can actually buy a share of the pizza shop first. So that's what the fascinating thing about crypto technology is. Someone can come in, buy your GDAY tokens. Like, hey, I bought it. Someone come in, buy your GDAY tokens, and they don't need to buy or receive anything from you. They just know, hey, this thing is small enough where I think it's got potential. You know, it's not even listed on any exchanges. Not everybody knows about it. Hey, the documentary isn't even released. You see this speculation part? It's the same thing as owning the pizza shop. So in traditional real world, you can't go buy shares of a pizza shop. It's not so easy. With this, boop, click of a button. Literally, type in the address. That's it. In a few clicks, you have a share of the network. So that's actually what people are doing. When they buy a token, they're owning a share of the network. You know, so you got to think. For example, Michael Saylor, he's trying to accumulate 1% of the Bitcoin network. He's got like 157,000 Bitcoin or whatever it is now. He wants to get clearly 210,000, because that would be 1%. It's like this giant round number, this speculation. Why? Like, it's not like you get more cash flow at 1%. I don't know what it is. It really is. It's digital real estate, buying these networks and these communities. So that's what you actually find might happen in the future, especially in a bull market when people come around, you know? So that's it'll be funny if you start to see people like this, because things that are hidden, people love them. It's like finding a hidden gem. It really is like finding, wow, do you know, there's an orange juice making machine out in the corner. No one knows about it. Makes really good orange juice. That's the power of crypto. You can literally own a share of it. But of course, in the wrong hands, just because you can own anything doesn't mean you really want to own everything. But it is fascinating to see play out, isn't it?
It really is. And you know, I've in the entertainment industry and the DeFi, I've been, you know, I keep an eye on those two worlds colliding, and often they talk about tokenized IP, which is like tokenized real estate in a way, but it's just digital. So it could be that what I'm seeing here, or what I anticipate could happen, is the GDAY token could be representative of the intellectual property in a cinematic universe that might, you know, unfold in the over the next 5 to 10 years, or what have you. Maybe that's how the community or the holders might view this token, as in, this is, I'm directly, like you say, holding shares in the IP of this universe that is GDAY, or whatever happens in the near future. That is really interesting to think about, and I appreciate you explaining it in such a simple manner for me to understand. Talk a little on the application of Hart's law.
Yeah. It refers for everybody at home. It's basically just saying, if there's liquidity bonding, between two assets, they'll tend to move up and down together. So another way to think about it is if you had a city, let's say New York, and you wanted to put another little community city, right, with some roadways connecting to New York, you would probably find that as New York's maybe business activity, its GDP went up, yours went up too. And as New York falls, yours would fall down as well. So that's basically what happens. Now, of course, it's just like two cities. What if everybody said, you know what, New York sucks. I'm going to go to the new city. That is also possible. And then also in Hart's law, you got to be careful of that too. So just because two things move together, it doesn't mean that necessarily that they're always going to be moving 100% in line like that. So it's fascinating just to see it work out, because in crypto, we can just use a Uniswap formula and we can always make sure that two things have a ratio. That's the most beautiful part of crypto. That's the fascinating thing it allows us to do, because the two things have a ratio, they'll always be related to each other. So basically nothing can ever really go to what we call like zero. They can go really, really low, but there's always going to be basically someone in the other city, if you know what I mean. And using this principle, what you're basically able to do is, if everybody does not touch assets, and what I call the spear, so like a spear, right? If one of the spears with the most liquidity of all the coins, if that's able to be moved up, it'll move everything up together. So another way really to think about it, it's kind of like if America went to a recession, I'm sure maybe the president would say, you know what, let's resurrect Texas, California, and New York. They're the biggest spears of the whole country. And as they probably increase the business activity, everything else in America would flourish as well. So that's another way to think about it. It's just that it's happening in digital cyberspace, and there's like all these tickers moving around. It becomes a bit hard for everybody to see what's going on. But yeah, we're only able to do this because of the Uniswap formula, which is one of the greatest technologies. So just to let everybody know at home, every 4 years in crypto, we have a new technological renaissance, innovation that comes in. In 2012, they kept tweaking Bitcoin around. In 2016, we had Ethereum. Anybody could launch any project. In 2020, we had Uniswap basically come to everybody's attention, where you could bond, basically just put a ratio pool of any two assets, and then the market would decide what they're worth. Okay, so every 4 years, that seems to happen. And funny thing is, now we're in 2024. What's going to be the new thing to kind of carry this on, you know? Because that Hart's law is basically a product of the thinking of how everything has basically got to the point of what it is. So, hey, we're all pioneers. I guess we see what happens next.
Picking sides, peer pressure versus independent choice in market analysis. So, you know, you would have your guiding principles. If you were, you know, a seasoned trader, I guess you've developed some sort of a understanding, but obviously newcomers into a project may become susceptible to peer pressure in terms of doing their market analysis. How can one best navigate through that?
Yeah, this is obviously not financial advice, friends, because this is obviously everything we do is really, really, really risky. Okay, industry standard is start with Bitcoin. That's what industry standard is. But I want you to know why people say start with Bitcoin. So let's talk real numbers. Let's say somebody had $10,000 to put in. It's probably best, if they know nothing about crypto, join Bitcoin and start researching it. And what you'll find is, and I'll tell you the real numbers here, the reason why Bitcoin is the safest is because of the number of people in the network. Bitcoin has 219 million people in the network. It's funny, it started with one person, Satoshi. It has 219 million people. Now, because it has so many people in there, it's harder for it to go up. But what you'll find is, because it's got that many number of people, the chances of it dwindling down and you losing everything, they're much smaller compared to a new token, like GDAY, for example, right? So that is where you basically have to steer in the direction. You say, okay, what are the biggest coins out there? Okay, Bitcoin's the biggest crypto network. Why? Now you know it's a number of people. The more the number of people, right, that's the higher adoption. That is where you're probably closer to safety. Now, safety, it depends on what you're in for, because safety also means you might not get the growth that you want. For example, if you want to go start a family, sure, you can go to New York. Maybe there's jobs everywhere. The problem is it's very expensive. You know what I mean? And you might find it hard to grow. So what comes next after that is Ethereum. So it adds a bit of risk and has less people than Bitcoin. I don't know exactly how many it has, but if Bitcoin has 219 million and the whole crypto industry has 419 million, you can see as you go down after Bitcoin, the number of people gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, there have been crypto communities that have grown to like 500,000 and 1 million people-ish, and they faded away because they have not been able, I guess, to address their product market fit as we move into a new cycle. So anyone at home, that's where you would want to start. You want to start with Bitcoin, and then as you explore, you get to see new things. Now, obviously, don't be scared. Just because something has the biggest network, you've got to think about why it has the biggest network. Well, it's been around the longest, and people maybe the narrative, and it's on TV a lot. But there's obviously a lot of opportunity out there if you're able to figure out, hey, there are communities out there. For example, a lot of people ask me, they go, why do you like PulseChain? Why HEX? I don't like the code, or the value is not what I think. And I just say, well, you could compare different communities together. It's very fascinating as well. Sometimes the founders have similar elements, even though they're not personality-wise, just the people in the community. And for example, in PulseChain Community, it's about 200,000 holders. So you just got to think, okay, this thing has 200,000. Can it go 10x? That would be 2 million people. All right. Now, it can drop down to 50,000. That's the risk. Okay. But that's how people come in to measure these things. Now, of course, towards the end of a cycle, when people come with full greed and speculation, they just join anything and they don't really care. But that's the ultimate fundamental starting user base, So
but there's a major difference. There's a major difference there with Bitcoin and other projects, right? The fact that it's proof of work. Now, does that play a role here? Because, there's an expenditure associated with with utilizing the network, the proof of work mining algorithm, versus all these proof of stake chains and then sub DeFi projects, which can arguably be easier to manipulate in terms of, is that fair to say?
That's actually a very, very good question. When it comes to this technology part, that narrative of proof of work, proof of stake, it's basically done now. It's part of the old guard. The new people coming in don't care. No one cares. But this discussion, it was very, very heated. It was because the crypto industry was so new back in 2013 to 17. What people they saw green candles, and they saw a lot of people wanting to use crypto. And so people correlated the green candles. They go, well, value's going up, and these things are decentralized. And what they also concluded incorrectly, they said, well, Bitcoin is proof of work. So in Bitcoin, to hand out the coins and basically dilute power away, you got to provide a computational algorithm to the system. You actually got to do physical maths to generate electricity, okay? And so what people thought at the start, obviously, God bless their hearts, they thought, well, the market must value proof of work. It must be like humans returning back to this ancient respect for, say, gold and work and value and things that just aren't digital. And what we ended up finding out was that was wrong. It was just that there was just so many people trying to fit through the door that everything would have went up anyway. So then Ethereum comes along, and Vitalik says, well, I don't see the point of diluting energy away and diluting the power by just basically spending a lot of electricity and just giving it to these Chinese companies who make the graphics cards. So he basically was like, let's do a different way. Let's just do this maths formula where you still got to buy in the network and you still got to commit. And what we found over time is the market's basically figured out, even though these proof of work and these different algorithms, so for everyone at home, I know they're very confusing, it's basically just, how are we going to give people the coins? That's it. You know, do we make them basically jump through this hoop or jump through that hoop? And then you kind of figure out the way they jump through the hoop. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just kind of needs to be fair enough. And that's it. So, yeah. So now the market is moving beyond really, okay, these things. It's basically like security. Like how many concrete walls do you need around the mansion before you say enough is enough? You know what I mean? Like, is 3 inches of concrete enough? What about 300 inches of concrete? And then that's basically how the industry is moving forward from that.
Right, okay. But just to go with that jumping through hoops, or, you know, arguably jumping through the proof of work hoops is a lot more expensive than the proof of stake hoops. Given that you have so much automation with the bots and what have you in the proof of stake.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? I know you made a joke before about decentralization. Well, to mine Bitcoin, you got to buy a graphics card that comes from like 3 Chinese companies. And it's known, before they sell them, they give them like a bit of a tester for the first 6 weeks. They basically mine the coins first. So that's kind of not spoken about in the Bitcoin industry. It's kind of like shunned upon because I kind of thought the market would take care of itself. So no matter where you go, there is trust needed somewhere. Something eventually centralizes itself. It doesn't matter which system you choose. And the market's basically, the communities are basically woken up to this thought. But the main concern though, that, for example, Bitcoin tribe will have with Ethereum tribe and proof of stake, they say, well, yes, the proof of stake, you don't need to burn up all this electricity, sure. But the problem is, in Ethereum and all these other consensus algorithms, to get a bigger share, you can just buy the coins up and then commit yourself in. So what their fear is in Bitcoin tribe, their fear is that if Ethereum gets too powerful, governments around the world will start printing their own currency, buying Ethereum up, and now they own the network. They basically own everybody. But see, you can't do that with Bitcoin, because if you buy all the Bitcoin up, you don't have any access to any of the power. You got nothing. You have to be a miner. But I've presented both sides, right? So obviously both camps say they're right, and everybody's in the middle, and 99% of people, this just goes over their head. They go, oh, we have no idea. But that's why both of them, I guess you could say, it's experimental, it's risky. We don't know how it works, but I think everybody's kind of figured it out. It's like, I mean, the example in a mansion, like, okay, you've got 30 inches of concrete and it's bulletproof and there's trenches around. Like, how much security do you really need at some point? Hey, at the end of the day, right, you still got to go to sleep, you know? So I'm just trying to use an example of, like, that's what everybody's trying to do. They're trying to say my moat, my castle wall is better than your castle wall. And this is people from the old guard now. Everybody coming into crypto now, everybody's coming in saying, well, both of your castle moats are strong and they're good enough. We're here for the communities and the value and to build a city, you know what I mean? So it's funny, we are now seeing that generational shift of new people coming in, and it'll be fascinating to see what type of narratives that evolves to in the next bull market.
Do you think, like from my observations, it seems like religious people, ex-military, even maybe drug addicts, disabled people are, you know, they make up a large portion of communities of various Degen projects. Do you think are those types of personality targeted, or do you think, or is it just they are attracted to this space?
You know what? That's actually very funny, because I thought that was just my experience. So it's very fascinating. You notice the same thing too. I think, okay, it has to do something with people who are ex-military and drug addicts and people who are in the outcasts of society who have nowhere to belong. I think there's something for everyone. There's people who have been left out of the traditional financial system. So the cost of bananas is going up too much and rent's going up too much and they're not giving you enough from the bank and everything is just basically not going your way. So there's people there who need a community. There's people who literally just want to join something new. It's the internet realm. They're coming in for that. There's a lot of people who don't fit anywhere in society. I've noticed they are in crypto more so than anything else. And I think it's because there's just anyone can get a voice. If you join, it's funny. Remember, you're joining a network. So if you just own a token, you are part of the network. And people are like, yes, you're in my team. So these types of stories and these narratives and how these people in these community villages are developing, it really is fascinating to see. And you actually see different communities attract different people as well. If you notice, for example, XRP community, every time I've met someone from XRP, they've worked an office job most of the time. They've worked an office job. They hate Bitcoin and Ethereum. They don't even really keep up with crypto. It's for something. They're always reading the same type of news, right? And then whenever I meet someone in real life who likes Cardano, they are always smart. They're always like history. It's just really fascinating. It's really fascinating, okay? When I meet somebody, okay, in the PulseChain and HEX community, there's a lot of ex-military people, okay? A lot of the people in Bitcoin community, this is fascinating. So a lot of the Bitcoin Maxi community, a lot of them you'll find they have law degrees or they are it's so hard to describe. They're very like nature, they like scripture. There's a lot of conservatives where it's like people with like 7 children, a lot of like religious people. I mean, one of the biggest Bitcoin proponents, Max Keiser, he literally, I made a video on this so many times, he performed an exorcism on somebody at the Bitcoin conference. And what was the exorcism? He was purging these people. He literally put his hand on someone's head. He says, I now purge your temptation to buy altcoins, poop coins. I now purge them out. I basically bless you away. Your sins are gone away. And I know people are watching at home, they're like, what is going on? Yes, there's different communities form these different things. It is fascinating, you know. There's also people I've noticed who are in Doge community. They're very like fun, loving, non-serious. I don't know why. I don't know. Something about the logos and the stories, these people coming in, there seems to be something for everybody, you know. Even these non-serious coins, I think about it like watching a television show. Like, you can't watch a television show and they just report on murders all day. You want some comedic relief. You know, you want to watch, hey, let's watch this like, you know, this TV show. Oh, I want some like real life drama here and there. I don't know why. There's something to do with just this human experience and attention, because it really is, that's all it is. It's a game of attention. That's what communities are, right? Like, for example, you can't be a part of every club, you know, the golf club, the wine drinking club, the book club, and the crypto club and the soccer club. Like, you can't be everywhere. And everyone's trying to basically keep their members. And, you know, where does it go from here? We're still discovering it right now.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because obviously in the digital realm you can be in multiple places at once, right? Because you just create avatars or characters through these social media accounts, so you can have the appearance of being in many communities at once and not really being in any at all. But talking on those types of community members, what are some surefire signs that one has entered useful idiot territory? As in, you know, it's the puppet and the puppet master sort of scenario within a community. Often the newcomers don't really know what they're up to, and they get kind of, well, you see it in content creation, right? Newcomer comes in, right, start creating content, but they don't really know the full picture.
So in crypto, this is, everyone's minds gets warped a lot, because this is what everyone has to know at home. If you have an asset and it goes up in value, it doesn't mean it's not a scam. okay? Because we've seen scams and non-serious products and things that shouldn't go up. We've seen them rise tremendously in value, more than what you would consider an honest project where there's no secret VCs who are dumping in the background. But at the end of a cycle, all the prices revert, and what are you left with? You're left with, the serious projects, they did not go as far as the non-serious projects, the scams here and there. So what's your conclusion? I mean, it's very hard to measure. With crypto, it's a blessing and it's a curse, because now speculation, we can print things on a chart. You can print the value of someone on a chart. We saw this recently in 2023. There was a narrative from Friendtech where people can buy access to different influencers. And if the influencer was cool and popular, they go up. And if they say something not cool, people sell them off. And I think this is the world we're going to. And it might be scary for people, because just imagine, for example, you say the wrong thing on the internet and your own personal stock starts dropping because the market, the people think you're not cool anymore. What you're saying is wrong. And that will psychologically affect everyone. So how that ties into the useful idiot coming in? Well, at the tops of market cycles, it's not just silly people who are in. There are people who think they've got it all figured out. That's why there's a perception of value at play. Humans, as we see green candles, basically prices and value of things going up, unfortunately, there's a fallacy we have where we think they are now more valuable. Instead, the people who are surviving in these crypto markets, when we see things go up, we think, okay, you are now becoming more expensive. This pair of Nike shoes was $200. Now you're telling me it's worth $2,000. I want to get rid of it. But when you call it a pair of Nike shoes, everybody wakes up. But when you say, hey, it's a GDAY token, it's not even that's all they do, friend. They'll say, well, Dogecoin went to 80 billion valuation. GDAY is not even $1 million yet. Of course we can go up. This type of narrative building. But that's why I told you about the price charts, because at the end of the day, if everything goes up and then just dumps down, what are you left with? You're just left with, okay, everyone played a casino game. So what survives in the long run? Well, we're trying to figure it out, right? What can be a sticky community? What has the cult? What is increasing the rate of survivability going on? Because that useful idiot who comes in and everybody comes in and buys the top, that's the only reason why everyone hears about it, they have a good chance of surviving if at least they're participating in something with a cult, But I really, I don't even want to call them useful idiots. It's just unfortunate because, for example, right now, contextually, we're seeing a sell the news event on the Bitcoin ETF. I'm watching, I got a stab in the heart because I'm watching the most skeptical, paranoid, UFO believing people who I respect for all of 2023 tell me, don't trust BlackRock, don't trust anybody. But then on the launch, they're saying, hey, Wall Street likes us. We're going to the moon. There's going to be trillions of dollars coming into the crypto industry. And you just see these big, fat letdowns. So for everyone at home, I want you to know that person out there who's just buying the top of some meme coin at the end, that's only the tip of the iceberg. There are people coming in, they fool themselves to think that they're geniuses at the end of the day, but they forget it's a game. It really is a game. And of course, if you're listening at home, the game is to just join a community early, because unfortunately, we still haven't evolved past the whole cycles and speculation of everything, because everyone's coming in for the casino. But what you'll find is we still exhibit these human emotions and cycles. So as we move up, you'll find the crowd gets more greedy. People want to hold on. They want to believe in a bigger narrative. And it basically transcends all of your rational thought from what we call the bear market, where you're like, wait a minute, I thought everybody was in here to make money. Okay, but the assets have gone up. Why aren't they selling? Okay, it's gone up more. Why aren't they selling? Right? So these things, it really is a fun journey to see, So think about that. Useful idiots, the friends coming in, those who survive, they're the ones actually participating in the cults. And where does it all end? Once again, we're still figuring it out. That's how we know we're still early to this game.
And yeah, this is the idea that the community is the utility I often see tweeted out. Everything revolves around the community that giveth and the community that taketh away, right? And this brings me on to the a new term that I've picked up in the last week or two, ecosystem mafia. What is an ecosystem mafia? Is that like this these fellas from Zen? I was watching this Zen token, XEN, and they were conducting something. They were talking about a vampire attack. Is a vampire attack something that's conducted by an ecosystem mafia, for example? Am I on the right path there?
On the right path. Very fascinating. So speaking about Zen, so the origin of Zen came from, okay, we had Richard Hart. So it's funny, friends. First, Bitcoin is the outcast of the world. Ethereum is the outcast of Bitcoin. And then Richard Hart and PulseChain is the outcast from those guys. And then within them, there's a subculture, subculture. You have Zen, where Jack Levin, the founder, he was into Hex. And then he branched off and we did what we call a vampire attack, where he basically said, you know what? The prices are down. We're going to go start our own new city. It's literally like, friends, it's like, okay, you leave England, you go to America, and then someone says, you know what? America sucks, even though it's 1820s. Let's go to Canada. I'm going to start Canada. And it's literally the digital equivalent of what happened. Now, these ecosystem mafias, so I'm very, like, it's an entertaining term, but if we go back to what we're speaking about, network effects, it's all about network effects. So what Jack's done is his strategy. Obviously, you got to judge whether it works or not. The market will judge, but the strategy is he has to get his name out everywhere. He wants to make sure everybody knows the Zen name, you know? So instead of like advertising on TV and other traditional places, what he did is he's like, you know what? Let's put Zen on every single chain. And when he does that, everybody kicks and screams because they watch. It's a hyperinflationary coin. So he did the equivalent of you go to every single country in the world and you just hand out brochures. What do people do with brochures? They go, hey, I've got a brochure here. Do people say, wow, I'm going to hold on to this paper and ink value of this brochure? No, they go, this is worth nothing. You know, that's exactly what's happened. Now, we're hoping, I guess, because I've got a lottery ticket in Zen, you're hoping that something gets built in the future, once again, speculation, and it's using the base of the brand awareness. Now, as you can see, it's risky upon risky upon risky squared, but that term ecosystem mafia, it's fascinating that people call it that, but really another word is marketing strategy. You know, that's all it is. It's marketing strategy. You know, some companies out there, their marketing strategy is to make like a really cool, hip 30-second ad for YouTube. Other people, they'll do very like subtle marketing strategies. Like they'll go to sports events. They'll hire like, you know, very like loose clothes-licking girls in bikinis to go and hand out, you know, the sports drinks, you know. So in digital cyberspace, people are doing different marketing strategies. It's just that it's funny, the founders themselves don't even call it marketing strategy. They're just doing what they think, okay, I've got to get my name out there. What do I do? And I'm watching all these experimentations play out. What's right, what's wrong? I mean, we don't really know. It's never been done before, right? But everybody's looking at the price values dropping down because you're diluting everything away. So that's the most unfortunate and toughest thing to balance in crypto. It's everybody wants to gather around value and it needs to be handed out. But if you hand out the value, if you disperse it too fast, people throw it away. It's a free giveaway, okay? So, but if you don't hand that out at all, how are you going to give it? It's everybody owns a coin. You need new people to come and want to basically be stimulated by demand. So that's what's been going on with the Zen ecosystem. Does that compound into something bigger? Well, I guess we'll wait and see. In the next flock of bull market people, where do people allocate? That's the next question, obviously. So as people come in, do they come and they say Bitcoin? Do they want to participate in that, or Ethereum, or any of these other layer chains? And how many come out? And I'll tell you one thing: every single cycle, everyone's wrong. That's not every single cycle. Most people are wrong. Nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, could see what Dogecoin and Shiba Inu did in the last cycle. Nobody. It blew away every single person's expectations of what they thought a crypto actually is. So network effects and these marketing strategies, I guess we just wait and see. These are live as they're happening. And hey, history's being written right now. Who's going to be the winning strategy? We'll find out.
I watched a short little documentary by a fella called Orange Gooey. He's a member of the Tan Gang. He made a little doco explaining something called the infinite money glitch. Now, this is something I need to get my head around, I think, and learn. Give me your take on the infinite money glitch using, Orange Gooey. I'd assume you've seen Orange Gooey's little doco or explainer video there. It's a Tan Gang mechanism, I guess. I don't fully understand it, but you're familiar soon.
You know what? I can add for everyone at home. Just I can add. So I think what he's referring to. Now I haven't watched it completely, but I'm seeing some words here. It's got to do with Uni V3 and LP. When you see LP, it's liquidity providing. So for everybody at home, just to understand it, in crypto, so in the traditional finance world, you're not allowed to do the real finance where they make money. So you aren't allowed to go to a bank and then loan out $1 million to your neighbor who needs to borrow $1 million for building a house. Okay, you can't do that. Instead, the bank does that for you. But in crypto land, for example, in Uniswap, because of its beautiful, the technology and how simple the formulas are and all the code, what you can do now is you can go do that. So this liquidity providing, it's the equivalent of going to a supermarket shelf and providing apples and bananas for the day. And every day people want to buy some apples and some bananas and they want to cross between, and that's what you're doing. You're providing a service and you'll collect money for that service. But if anybody's from the traditional trading world, see, because we've given a new label and term and it's fresh, people think it's something really new, but it's actually not anything new. So anybody who's trading, all it's basically doing is just allowing you to infinitely buy something as it goes down or infinitely sell something as it goes up in tiny, tiny little increments. And because you're dealing with ratios, you never actually really get rid of all your stacks. So this is a fascinating but also sad conclusion to this technology is it's allowed liquidity to be formed for almost anything. So everything out there can have a price. But from all the statistics and the research and everything done right now, it's actually not profitable on average for the average person to do this. So in 95% of cases, you lose. And it's just like traditional trading. The top 5% of people at the pyramid, they are the smartest. They can predict statistically or with some sort of edge that, the coin's going up or the coin's going down or there's not going to be volatility here, right? And it just becomes like, you're basically like just a trader at the end of the day. Now, when it comes to this infinite money glitch, what people try to do is they'll try to say, they go, well, you know what? I want a bit more nuance with how I participate in this technology. I want to sell at certain prices and buy at certain prices with a specific pattern in mind. But I'll tell you right now, there's no magic formula that solves for any of this. And the conclusions of the studies always come down to the same thing. The person who just buys an asset, holds it, and does nothing, they're the ones with the highest value at the end of like a cycle of growth here and there. But I mean, it is fascinating to see that we're still able to bring this technology from traditional finance and enhance it and tweak it and use it. And I mean, for everyone at home, okay, the Uniswap technology, it's so simple and so genius that Ripple have been in the game for 10 years now, 11 years. They dumped 1.5 billion XRP tokens, dollar worth, on their investors in 2021. A few months ago, they announced, conveniently in this little fine print, I was the only person to read it, they announced that their technology is just not that good for 10 years. What have they been building? So what they've done is they've taken Uniswap's code and they've just plotted it in. Okay, so infinite money glitch, money-making opportunity. So it's basically people playing around with the digital equivalent of providing money at the supermarket shelf. But for everyone at home, you can indulge in these. And, this is the same thing. Everyone thinks of these new strategies, these new ways to participate in the financial future. But hey, like I said, the stats, they always come down to the same things, just like in stock market land, you know? People who buy and hold assets and just commit themselves to thinking about how they can like engage a community or enhance value of the community, they're the ones who ultimately win out. But, you know, it's fascinating to see it play out because you got to think, if we can do that now, what are the other parts of investment banks and JP Morgan and the traditional finance world? What other parts are we going to be able to do in the future? You know, so this is like the first stepping stone just to show you how innovative and revolutionary everything is. And basically it's giving people the power to participate in their own portfolio management, like, you know, for better or worse. And I guess you're just gonna have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, let's hear your message to newcomers to the Degen generation, and give us a message. What's your message to them as they enter?
Fellow Degens, society has cast us out, but I'm telling you right now, the cryptocurrency industry is a home for everyone because everyone is on the same side of the boat. They doubted radio, they doubted television, they doubted the car, they doubted the internet, and they all went on to change the world. And you know what they're doubting today? Not only are they doubting crypto, they're doubting the Degens. So they got something coming for them. Catch you soon.